Level, 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 level.
Take it down.
How's that?
Keep going.
Take me down. Take me down where I want to be.
Where you
Turn around.
Turn around.
The man who lives inside of me. Take me down and love me all night long.
Oh, gosh, that's weird.
Strong.
Sing to your friend.
You don't know that one?
No.
That's Alabama, but it was written by, who wrote it? Some more like pop band. Climax, maybe?
Ew. Gross.
Some of the guys, like there's a whole group like Ambrosia, Climax, that to me all sound about the same. And one of those guys, I think it's
Bread.
When I get home, babe, gonna light your fire. All day I've been thinking about you, babe. You're my one desire.
Yes.
What song is that?
I know that.
Gonna wrap my arms around you and hold you close to me. Ooh, girl, I want to kiss your lips. I want to be your fantasy. Yeah. What song is it?
Ladies and gentlemen, he's looking straight up in the air, searching his brain.
Yeah. Searching the database.
I just love the rainy nights.
Well, I love the rainy night. I love a rainy night. I love to watch the lightning, hear the thunder as it brights up the sky.
And you know that it's something.
Aubrey loved that. That was one of the first songs Aubrey loved.
So. Oh, yeah. I was an Eddie Rabbitter. And then when I bought a Volkswagen Rabbit, I felt I had to listen to Eddie Rabbit.
You had to listen to Eddie Rabbit.
Because I'm driving his vehicle. Hello.
Hello.
Hello and welcome to episode 15 of The Pastor and the Pappy. The Pastor and the Pappy is a podcast in which two fellas, one a pastor and one myself, a pappy, talk about how they enjoy and how they get fulfilled by their walks with God.
The Pastor
and the Pappy.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. I'm the pastor side of the equation. I don't know. Do I qualify as a fella? I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people try to treat me as if there's something strange, weird, or odd about me. And I just consider myself a guy who has the knack to preach and understand the scriptures and share them with people.
Sure.
So, but I think I'm still a fella.
You're a fella. You can be anything you want nowadays.
Well, that's absolutely true. I want to be a fella. I want to be a guy, a chap, a bloke.
A dude.
Dude's good.
Bro.
Yeah, all of
Broheme.
Bro is pushing it a little bit. I'm not sure that the bro lifestyle is for me, but and I don't think I could be a bohemian. Probably not an outdoorsman or a logger either. I doubt that I'm an athlete, even though I'm somewhat athletic, I guess. But
could you be an average Joe?
Average Joe. There you go. I'll take average Joe. It sounds good. And you are the Pappy.
I am the Pappy.
The Grand Pappy, which some folks have asked us, what does Pappy mean? And it's the Kevin's family's version of Grandpa.
It is. My Pappy was a nice old German happy man. If you've ever seen a carving of an old man in a barber shop with white hair, or think of maybe even Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken, and that's what my grandfather's dad was, and he is Pappy. And no, I'm sorry, it's my grandmother's dad. It was my grandmother's dad, and he is Pappy. He was a very happy, jolly man. Go ahead.
He was a slap happy Pappy. Is that?
He would have funny jokes that would make him hit his knee. So yeah.
Slap happy. Yeah, maybe that's what I've always heard that term, slap happy Pappy, and never know what it meant. So maybe that's it. That he's happy and he slaps his knee. There you go. Slap happy Pappy looking right through the interwebs at me. Were you a good Pappy yesterday? We are recording this the day after July 4th.
Yes. The day before July 4th was when I was a really good Pappy. Yesterday I had to work.
Oh, okay.
And even the day before, so the 2nd on Saturday is when the grandkids came over. We went in the lake. Jocelyn saved, I do air quotes, saved my life 3 or 4 times to prove that she can swim. She's taken swimming lessons at age 5, and she's really good. And a video will be up soon when I finally get to doing that, of her swimming all the way out to almost over my head and then pulling me back into shore. And she did at 5 years old. I'm 270 questionable pounds. And she yanked she said, "Hold on to my foot." And then she's, and I'm floating back. I'm like, this is pretty awesome. Kid's super strong in the water.
Yeah, pretty soon you won't have to swim anymore. Just have your granddaughter take you out and bring you back in.
I'm a tugboat.
Yeah. Did you see fireworks or real loud or
nonstop since Thursday of last week, and even last night I came home and they were still going off.
Yeah,
and it's like, I'm done. I'm done with fireworks. And I delivered last night, and during the delivery, I mean, I'm like driving by the guy who's shooting them off, driving off the guy who's shooting them up. You drove by him, or you drove him away? Both, but it was like 5 inches away from me. A guy's like, "Hey, how you doing, Hank? Hey, you work for a pharmacy?" And shoots it right next to me. And I'm like, hey, I had my phone out, and I was videotaping the whole thing.
Are they illegal where you are?
I'm not sure, because people sure like them, and the cops just sit there and watch.
They used to be illegal in Ohio, and there was one time that we were at a church cookout, one in the country. One of the guys gets a police radio, and he's like, "Oh, the police are busy with a fight over in Shelby, so we're going to light off some fireworks because they're not going to come after us since they're occupied." And but I think now there's now phantom fireworks stores in Ohio. Don't know if they're legal or not in California, but just like you, a lot of people had them. We saw, the cities. We can see the city's fireworks just by going into the park next to our house. So what a lot of people are just out there. There's some are too low; they're below the tree line. You see like the light flash, but you can't actually see them. But most of them are above the trees, and we can see them. Then some guy to the left, he must have been right on the edge of the park, but we couldn't see him in the trees. Started lighting off his own, and then some guy in the right started doing the same thing. And finally the cities were done. We went inside. I told my wife, "This is going to go on all night," and it did. We got inside, and I mean, it sounded like a war. It was everywhere. You're just hearing it. It's just like if these aren't illegal, they're unpoliceable because the police aren't stopping it. So
I have a quick dumb thing story for you. Which is hilarious concerning fireworks.
Switching back to our old podcast.
Well, I have to, because this is great and I can't let it go. And it's something I don't think we talked about. But it concerns fireworks. I was with my buddy Tommy down in Virginia, and we were over at his house. And he did have some in Arlington, Virginia. They are definitely illegal. No more than a snake. You're allowed to light snakes and sparklers. That's
snakes and sparklers, yeah.
So we're standing there, and he had a good one. And we had lit off. Is that proper English? We had lit off a couple prior, and they were like the,
yeah.
So where they're coming from, and if you just follow the trail, you find and pinpoint the exact house. So the cops showed up right when Tommy's brother lit off another one, and they're walking down, going, "We hear that there's fireworks here," and we're all blocking the firework, and all of a sudden from behind us. First, we're saying, "We don't know anything about that." And then right from behind Tommy, right behind his head, goes flying up one of those, huge Desert Eagle explosion things, and shoots right off. And the cop's like, "All right, I got to stay here until you light them all off, so hurry up." Because he has to go to his next stop. So we did. So we lit
that's the way they handled it. Just like you exhaust your supply.
Yeah,
and we know you're not a threat anymore.
Exactly. And make sure that you do it safe with police guidance. And so they lit off the rest of them, and then that was it for the night. It was pretty good.
Does lying to the police ever work?
I don't know, Doug. I can't say I've ever done that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're sending me. I find it. I mean, you always have that friend that thinks he knows the law. First, you got the one friend that thinks he knows the law, and like we had a guy that believed that the police couldn't stop you if they didn't have their headlights on. So like he goes speeding past a police cruiser, and did he have his lights on? He can't stop me if he didn't have his lights on.
Yeah.
I doubt that.
He has to tell you he's a cop too.
Yeah, he's got to tell you.
He's got to tell you.
And then you got the others. You got these guys like, yeah, I'll go toe to toe with the police. All the rap music that was prevalent at the time still is prevalent today. I'm going to go toe to toe with the police. I got a sawed-off shotgun, blah, blah, blah. And then the police come. They're like, well, I didn't do anything, officer. I didn't do anything. What did I do? And they're doing all these little sixth grade, try and talk your way out of it shenanigans. It's like, I just don't think are very effective. But, we had a pretty good 4th of July. My wife and daughter just came back from Ohio on the 3rd of July. They had been there for 2 weeks without me. I was there 1 week with them, and then I came back, and they stayed an additional 2 weeks. So got them back just in time. In the morning, I did a 5K fun run, which is, again, just right out. All the activities just right outside our door.
It's not
so
fun.
I go out, and I was 20 in my age group, men 40 to 49. I was 21 out of 50, so I didn't think that was too
nice.
bad.
Yes,
I wasn't able to push it because the pack at the beginning was so thick, and there are all these people running with their kids, which is nice and fine, but their kids will just stop right in front of you, and it's boom, I did hit one kid, not meaning to, but she literally stopped him in tie her shoes right in front of me, and it's like, I can't stop like that,
Something she should have done before the race started. You can't help that.
Yeah. Check your shoes before the race begins. So that slowed me down a little bit, but we had a little parade, went home, got breakfast real quick, went back out, saw the parade. Aubrey, my daughter's, I'm going to get candy. I'm like, yeah, you might not. Sometimes it doesn't happen. She got more candy than Halloween, man. She got, and she was sitting in a group of about 6 kids. They got candy, they got flags, they got stickers, they got water tattoos, they got sunglasses, pins, glow sticks. I mean, it was a long parade.
Beautiful.
The Boy Scout troop that meets in our building came by, and they saw me. They gave me a full-size candy bar.
Oh, nice.
So it's the perks of having a building that you open up to people, I suppose. Then they did something in the park where they had some things for kids. They did some face painting, and they had this thing where they put these kids in these balls, and they walk around and roll around on the water. I mean, it's basically just standing in line. I got sunburnt. Can you see?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. The nice farmer tan that I've got going there.
Scotsman tan there.
Scotsman in the sun is like a fork in a microwave. So, so hopefully that wears off by tonight,
that sentence, haven't you?
Then, what did we do? Oh, came to church, had a hot dog cookout, which was nice. And then, just got to watch the fireworks at home. So really a full day, a nice day.
Beautiful.
And now I don't think there's anything special between now and Labor Day. August doesn't have any special days, does it? Your birthday?
July 12th.
Okay, well, there you go. So we got a birthday to look forward to. And another of our buddies, Matt, his birthday's coming up, I believe.
Yes, we share, I think, the same month. His is a little further down the line.
Is it the 7th?
I forgot. Yeah, I think it is. Oh, it's the night of the live show for Please Stand By. So, same night. And hopefully he'll be able to see, but I think he's going to run out. But we were actually doing this for him. No, we're not, but I can pretend.
There you go. Editing fixes everything.
Yeah, that's right.
So
happy birthday, Matt, coming up, definitely.
So that's been our holiday summertime exploits. What do you say we get into the show proper and talk about a cultural artifact?
Let's do that. And now it's time for the cultural artifact. Well, this cultural artifact is a current event or an incident which connects in some way with our walks with God. This is something I picked just because it's a subject that is near and dear to me, strictly because it's something that I abide by along with the commandments. It's just something that seems to correct your life if you ever feel like you're slipping into any of these, and that is those 7 deadly sins that is mentioned in mostly nowadays movies and maybe horror tales and things like that. But to me, I've always found these 7 deadly sins, of which I'm not a huge studier of or anything like that, but just something to realize that these are things that could definitely take your life if you fall too much into these categories, I guess I can call them, which are the 7 deadly sins.
This is something that's largely foreign to me. Yeah. And first of all, I just wanted to point out that the differences between the cultural artifacts that you and I pick, and I think that the differences in our personalities, there's nothing particular that happened that made you pick this, right? I mean, we talked about what topics we were going to go, and you just said, okay, well, for a long time, you said you wanted to talk about this, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
So with me, it's like something specific. Like the one that I wanted to do and the one we're going to do next episode is somebody on YouTube said something when I wasn't expecting them to say something and I didn't like it. So now I want to show the illogicality of it. Right. So I'm like a firecracker, since we're, close to 4th of July. Yeah. Something lights my wick and I explode. You are more like a boiling pot, that these things have been simmering in you for some time.
Well, they're just bubbles in my life. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there you go. So instead of you being, triggered anytime recently, it's just this has been something that's going on for a while that you want to talk about.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that we approach the cultural artifact that way. But no, to me, I don't know when I first heard about the 7 deadly sins. They were never mentioned in our church.
Yeah.
I don't know historically where they came from, any type of background. So you're going to have to fill me in on all of those things. Where did do you know where the 7 deadly sins come from, or?
Their classifications, according to Wikipedia, which is where I'm going off of, because in my church, we never discussed them really.
Oh, really?
Unless the words were popped out, like avarice, I remember that, or hubris, or words like wrath and what is the other one? And sloth. Those words are talked about in Bible, in the church,
sure,
in different homilies. And
all of those are things that would be considered sinful.
Right.
But I always thought it was a Catholic thing. So you're telling me you didn't even hear it in your church?
No. The first time I ever really got into and saying, I don't want to say got into because it sounds like I'm all about this, but it's watching the movie 7 with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. That's the very first time that I heard and even understood what this was about. And that movie is not one that I would suggest to people of a younger age, but it is a good movie to show you how these 7 deadly sins could definitely take somebody's life and definitely become deadly because of how easy you can fall into these things. And one of the reasons that I brought this up this week, as a matter of fact, is the gluttony end of it. I'm trying to lose weight, but I could see where, the number one being gluttony. I'm a chubby guy, and I've been picking out, boy, there's another barbecue coming up this coming weekend. There's another barbecue coming up after that weekend. And then before the end of July, I'll be going camping where I'm going to be eating more barbecue and cookout food. And I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to get a little bit, hey, honey, my chest is starting to hurt. Do you wonder what that is? And it hit me. It was like, if you keep eating like a pig, you'll end up dying. And that's like number one on the list. And
which is quite ironic, because gluttony is the one sin you can never preach about in a Protestant church. that's gluttony is, sexual immorality, man, we're going to nail you on that one. But gluttony.
But have another donut. Yeah, right.
Yeah, have another donut.
Well, also, and we're diving right into it, but it's. But first, let me tell you about the origin.
Well, let's do this first. Can you list the 7 deadly sins?
Yes, I can.
I don't think I can.
Well, there are 7 of them, Doug, and they are gluttony, lust, avarice, pride, wrath, vanity, and sloth.
What is avarice?
Avarice is under greed. The want. The want to have so much. It's almost in the envy department. Almost. Where you want something because everybody else has it, or you want it just because you want to own as much as you can, as much money as you can have, as much... I'm collecting DVDs.
Okay,
and it's getting abundant.
Okay. Envy. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what is your like? I have almost zero history with these. If I had to guess or think about what they, I mean, like I said before, I always thought they were something the Catholic Church came up with, but you said you've never heard of.
No, it's
them
not,
in the Catholic Church.
It's a. They could also be known as cardinal sins or capital vices, but it's not really just a Catholic thing. I think it's Christian origin, and what it stems from is the fact that these are things that we actually all of us do in our daily lives. You look at a girl, you find her really cute, and that could fall under either appreciation or it could fall under lust. And if you let it go too far into the lust department, that could become a habit. And eventually, it could consume you. And that is why it's so deadly. It could just become something that you end up not living life in the fullest, and you're basically living to be lustful. And, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, my next guess would be if it's not an actual Catholic dogma, my next guess would be that it was something that came out of the Middle Ages, the medieval period time.
Yeah, it could have.
I think I've heard something like that. In reality, this is not a biblical concept, and I guess I'm always the Bible guy. There's a Christian comedian one time, I think his name was Mark Warnke. And he did this, but he said some people are so biblical. He said you'll go to make a cheese sandwich and they'll say, well, show me where cheese sandwich is in the Bible, And I'm kind of that guy. There is a list of 7, you could call it the list of 7 deadly sins in the book of Proverbs, but significantly different. And this is Proverbs 6:16 through 19. But he says, there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. So, some of those are like haughty eyes would be pride, right? Hands that shed innocent blood. I don't know if that's quite wrath or not, but
that would probably fall into wrath, definitely.
Yeah, some of them are like a person who stirs up conflict in the community, a troublemaker, is something. So I would say, there is a list of things that are hateful to the Lord. You could call them 7 deadly sins, but they're significantly different from this list. So I don't really know where this list came from. It's not biblical. It's not like God said, hey, there's 7 deadly sins and these there are. But traditionally, people have looked at them and said, well, these are the 7 deadly ones. I don't know if they really cover the whole gamut or not, but I think really we need to ask you a little more about that. Why is it that you're attracted to these or upset about these, or what is it that is driving your thought about this?
Because it's things that I try not to. These are like 7 things I try not to delve too far into with my own life. Okay. Now, 18 until 20, I was the captain of lust, if not even 14 to 20. And my goal was to be David Lee Roth, hit on every girl I could see, and whatever came afterwards. And eventually, again, the reason that would be a deadly sin is because you end up catching something and dying of some terrible STD in the end. Yeah. And you don't want to delve into that too far. And
well, there's multiple ways that can mess up your life.
Of course.
Just catching an STD is,
it's
catching an STD. Many. First you have to get the girl, which for me is not that likely, but there is, sorry, didn't mean to make you snort your iced tea there, but no, I mean, damage to your marriage if
if you're married when you're doing it,
possible physical consequences, possible pregnancy, and I have known people that have fathered children with other women while they were married, and that's a huge problem. But you also got just a general unhappy. I mean, that's one of the weird things to me about the entire pornographic world. And first of all, it's weird to me how much pornography there is.
Oh,
because when I was a kid, I thought, there's only a couple issues of Playboy out there. But no, I mean that's a pretty bottomless pit. But to me, there just seems to be a great unhappiness that is associated with that.
Definitely.
If you're sitting there looking at every woman that comes across, first of all, you're not having a normal friendship with her. You're not relating to her as a normal person. You're treating her like an object. But secondly, you're more likely, again, to go back to comedian, there's Brian Posner. Is that his name? He's a big kind of geek guy. He was the priest in the second Fantastic Four movie that marries Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Girl. Oh. But he talked about meeting Kate Beckinsale one time, and he's like, have you ever met a woman, she's so beautiful that it makes you angry? Because you just look at her and you say, I'll never have you, I mean, these are I
can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what a terrible place to live at that, where I live. I mean, there are new beautiful women that, because there's a lot of people, it's a heavily populated area. Every day, some, different, beautiful woman crosses my path. If I allowed that to make myself unhappy, man, I would be fairly well miserable all the time. So, yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess my point would be like, I don't think these 7 are the only 7. But if you want to say, hey, these 7 are something that can cause you some trouble,
they seem to be the main, and it's not just lust sexually. It could be lust for an object, lust for fame, lust for fortune, lust for whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just it's like one word with several different attachments for that specific main word. And it's something that I appreciate exists. I'm looking into more history on it, and it seems like the 15th century, there was a part of a book or a book itself called The Holy Spirit and the Seven Deadly Sins. Folio from Walter's manuscript, and then W171, 15th century, and as one of the initiators of the Seven Deadly Sins.
So this, again, if this is not settled Catholic dogma, then, which is what I thought it was, then it appears to be that somebody, and this is again, this is a mindset that I understand because I'm an organizer.
No, I understand.
I'm a cataloger. So it looks like somebody tried to organize and catalog the sinful world, which to me is kind of more like a vague spectrum. I mean, we have, like, you think of the color spectrum. We've got blue and purple, and they're clearly distinct. But in between, there are shades.
Of course.
To me,
80s Pastelian.
If you look at the scope of sin, it's more like a spectrum that there's, I would say there's far more than 7, though, it might be that, like Roy G. Biv, the 7 primary colors, it might, or those aren't the primary colors, right? The 7 colors of rainbow, whatever. It might be that you could make the case that all sin falls under this one kind of category. It's either lust or it's, so I can understand. So it's an attempt
like the main rainbow. That's what.
Yeah. So I guess my thoughts about it were, again, being the biblical guy, I'm always like, well, that's not biblical, but I understand why they came up with the list. I understand why your attention would be drawn to it. I think it's fairly, fruitful enough if you use it in that spirit.
Yeah, it's basically a list of poisons not to take.
Yeah, that's a good way to think, because that's what sin is. Sin is a poison, and so again, you think. Well, I know that this comes up in Firefly. They talk about the 7.
I have yet to see any fireflies except for the ones that came in last night during the fireworks. But I have never seen the show Firefly. Everybody wants to see it.
In the movie Serenity, the bad guy, before he kills somebody, he keeps asking them, "What's your? Do you know what your sin is?" And at the Mal says, well, "I'm a fan of all 7." But it seems to me like I've heard somebody talk about lust. Say something similar joke saying, lust is my favorite of the 7 deadly sins. Or I remember there's an episode of Taxi. I think it's what was Andy Kaufman's character?
Latka.
Latka, yeah.
Latka.
it's Balki was Perfect Stranger. So
Balki is
there
Perfect
we go.
Strangers.
There was my confusion. But he tells Danny DeVito's character he thinks he's in love, and DeVito says, "No, you're in lust. It's better." So
it's much better, Riga.
Yeah, there's a segment of our society. It's like, no, these things are good, and you're saying no, they're a poison. And I would absolutely, any sinfulness, whether you can fit it into this categorization or not, is poisonous to you.
It is poisonous.
Yeah, that's why the Father forbids them. I think, as Benjamin Franklin said, the forbidden things are not harmful because they're forbidden. They're forbidden because they're harmful.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that the Lord has told us to stay away from, physically harmful, emotionally harmful, mentally harmful, will corrupt you in multiple different ways, making you miserable and leading you away from your true purpose, which is to enjoy God forever. I think the Westminster Catechism says. So, yeah, I can understand that. Now, beyond that, then, is there any specific, what is it that, again, I feel like there's something that's not there, that you're keying into this in some way.
Well, there is. There's, and by the way, another thing I should say as I scroll down, there is a section that says Catholic philosophy. Again, it never came up in my Catholic teachings growing up.
Yeah.
But it talks about that. It also talks about different branches, and you might know these. I am completely dumb. Scholasticism. Thomism. That's what I said.
Thomism. I'm not sure how to pronounce
I don't know this stuff. And Scotism. I think that has something to do with you, right?
That's probably me. Yeah. No, I don't. I'm not familiar with that. I'm familiar with the previous two, though. I really couldn't define.
There's a whole
them.
bunch of isms that I'm just like, whatever.
I mean, yes. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say gluttony. And this past week, again, gluttony, not just myself, but just being out and about. I am surprised. I don't know how it is in California, but I am surprised and not so surprised how fat we are getting in America.
Mm-hmm.
We are a fat people. And up here in Connecticut, people on motorcycles, anybody riding a motorcycle up here is no less than 300 pounds. With
like those guys in the Guinness Book
just
of
like
World
the
Records, the two twins sitting on the motorcycle.
Cowboy hats, yeah. But it's sad, and it's and I'm out on the lake, and everybody in the boats, everybody even on jet skis. The poor jet skis are saying, "Ugh." It's this it looks like the movie WALL-E. That's what it looks like.
Yeah,
and that's something else that made me think of this, and it's scary. And I myself. I've lost some weight since I've been thinking about this, actually. And not because of this only, but because I've been going out in the lake and swimming. And, I painted the dock just because it needed to be, repainted and treated. So I did that and I lost some weight. But, it's very easy to have your arteries harden. And then all of a sudden you hear this sound that sort of sounds like... And that comes after the hardening of the artery.
That comes when you're floating above your body, right? And you're watching you're watching yourself and your wife crying over you, and you see a light and hear a voice that says, "Come to me, my child."
And you're praying that's a chef with another plate of ribs.
Yeah,
and it's not. And then following that is greed. Greed is something that I think falls under. I stutter when I talk. That all gets removed.
That's all right.
But I feel like I went on this rampage of collecting beer glasses, beer steins, beer this, beer that, and I can't even drink beer anymore. I just can't with the meds that I'm taking now. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't thrill me like it used to either. But so I have this abundant collection of beer glasses, and during the time that I was getting them, it was like I had to get this one because I didn't have it. I had to get a Newcastle, or I had to get the next Sam Adams, or I saw something by Shock Top. I had to get that, and the Blue Moon. I had to get every glass of Blue Moon, and that greed to get it was not because I didn't have it so much, but because I could show it off to people. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was something that I got a little too far into. My wife kept saying, well, you liked collecting things. There's people who collect Atari games, nobody in general that I can think of. And there's people that collect DVDs, like myself. I collect DVDs constantly. I can imagine that being something that could get out of the hand where, like Fergus collecting so many DVDs that him and his wife are not eating because he's spending so much money constantly on Atari games, or I'm spending so much money on DVDs that Shelley and I just end up divorcing. She can't take it anymore. It's all I talk about. It's all I think about. And all I do is watch the darn movies. I never spend any time with her. And it gets to the point where you have to realize that's why these are deadly sins. It ends up taking everything out of life that you can appreciate and love, and things that are dear to you would all be dismissed because you've focused so much on these items that you think are so important to you, and you just want more and more and more, and you have nothing at the end except a pile of glasses that are sitting somewhere, and it's like, what are you going to do with them? You die, and then your poor wife has to sit here and wash glasses for eternity.
She's going to sell them first chance she gets.
Yeah, no, she will, because she's greedy and she wants the money.
Yeah, she's going to cash in. She's got problems with the 7 deadly sins all of her own. So don't worry. That situation will resolve itself. Well, so, you've been thinking about this for a while. You seem somewhat not keyed up, whereas usually I get defensive. I'm trying to defend some truth of the faith. You're trying to live into it a little bit. And I think that's a good thing to talk about. But I think it really fits more into the category, speaking of categorization, of the spiritual application.
And now it's time for the spiritual application.
That's all right.
This is how the event or the incident applies to us with our walks with God, and how do we respond to them as men of Christ.
Absolutely. So, truth without application is of very little importance. So there always needs to be an application of some sort of truth. You hear the truth is you see this list of 7 deadly sins, whether it's biblical, whether it's not, there is at least some truth in it. And you're reacting to it in a pretty strong way. So, a couple of things that I think we need to do. I mean, first of all, let's again kind of reestablish, we've kind of gone down this road a little bit, but reestablish why you are concerned about it. And I do think it's interesting that they're called the deadly sins. And what you've picked up on that I kind of missed is that these things do have a negative effect upon your life, including but not limited to the ending of your life.
Absolutely. And they could all definitely become the end of your life, all of these.
Yeah, and especially if Kevin Spacey is hanging around somewhere.
Oh, yeah, and he's taking his fingernails off and also his fingerprints.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to see that movie.
You think about that in that movie, though. The one girl that's, I guess it's Pride, that he super glued a bottle. He marred her face. Yeah. And then he super glues a phone in one hand and a bottle of sleeping pills in the other. And you can either call for help, but you won't be. And the girl was so vain, she had a picture of herself above her bed.
Right.
I mean, a huge face. What do you call that? Like what agents get, the mug shot, what do they call that? Headshot, a huge headshot of herself. Yeah, not like a normal picture of me and my dog, in a little 5x10, but a huge, and he glues a bottle of sleeping pills in the other, and you can either call for help, but you'll be, maimed for life. You won't be the beautiful person you were anymore, or you can kill yourself. And she chooses to kill herself. And so there really, so two things I think that we see here. Number one, there is a negative consequence to these behaviors. You've called it poison. That's a perfect. Yeah. I like to call it bleach, because I say, nobody feels tempted to drink bleach. Why do we feel tempted to do these things that will harm us, But so there is a harm that is involved there. I think the second thing to see, though, is that a lot of these things are less an action and more of a attitude or a worldview or just a thought. So again, the action that this girl took was that she killed herself when she realized she wouldn't be beautiful anymore. But long before she got to that point, there was a problem with her thinking about herself.
She thought that she was the most beautiful thing in the world, and nothing could ever beat that.
Right. So it's so wrong on so many levels. First of all, there's lots of beautiful people. Yeah, again, living in San Francisco. Yeah, exactly. Look in the mirror if you need proof. But no, living in San Francisco, I see men and women every day that could be on the cover of a magazine. Literally, like they could be on the cover of a magazine and not photoshopped.
And I envy them. I wish I could look like them.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice, but my point is that there's nothing unique about that.
No, there isn't. I'm kidding. I'm just throwing envy in there just to.
Yeah, I was picking up what you were laying down, but you're trying to stop the train, so you can't stop the train.
No train stopping. Just getting on. Just getting on. Just want you to pick me up on the way.
You think the Merovingian in Matrix Reloaded, I'm the only guy on the planet that likes that movie, but he talks about the girl at the...
Hold on, let me kick my cat's ass. Would you stop it? She goes... Just knocked over my tablet and somehow a walkie-talkie at the same time. Continue.
But so the Merovingian in Matrix Reloaded, I'm the only guy that likes that movie, but he's picking on that woman in the restaurant. He says, look at her, so beautiful, so bourgeoisie, so boring. Here's a guy that's lived forever. And this woman who's beautiful and intoxicates everybody she comes around, he said, I've seen it so many times, it's boring. Yeah. So first of all, you have this, you're focusing on something that really isn't what you think it is, in the grand scheme of things. Your beauty, it's not that unique. It's not that interesting. But second of all, you've allowed it to warp you to the point, pride. Is pride the only one like this on the list? I'm not sure.
Well, I would think envy would fall under it, and that's why I threw it out there, is because of the fact that you think you are so beautiful that you think everybody would envy you. That's the whole connection there.
I guess that's what I'm getting, that there is this sense, and I just read something about this morning, and I can't remember where I came across it or how it fit into the message that I was working on, but there's this concept of, is a guy, great writer, he wrote a book called Four in the Garden. His name's Rick Hawker, and he puts out a little inspirational piece every month that I get. And he talked about the over focus on you, right? That when you focus so much on yourself, that you become, the standard for interpreting everything that happens around you. So that could be pride,
Definitely.
How do I feel about myself? That could be envy. What do I want? Lust would fit in that same, lust, it would be more, what do I want? Envy would be more, what do I hate that others have?
And the greed that would follow, definitely.
Yeah, greed, gluttony, all of those, there is this overemphasis on the you, whereas in the Christian life, the life of faith, C.S. Lewis says, there's another
C.S. Lewis.
We can't get away from him.
The C.S. Lewis podcast.
There you go.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The Lewis cast. That's what we're going to change the name to. But he says humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is just thinking of yourself less, which is really what the Lord wants us to do.
Reversing the words in a sense.
Yeah, just reverse the words, and you've got a Christian maxim right there. But no, I think there's truth in that. That it's not that the Lord wants me to be like, oh, I'm ugly, don't look at me. It's that the Lord doesn't even want me to consider. I mean, have you ever been where, so for example, my daughter got slightly lost at the amusement park. I could still have my eyes on her. When we were on vacation, I saw her, but she went the wrong direction getting off a ride and went away from us. And to her perspective, she was all alone, all by herself. And, I knew she was perfectly fine because I always had eyes on her. I mean, but still I'm racing to get to her because I can see from a distance the panic building.
Right.
And I at that moment, I'm not thinking about what I look like. I'm not thinking about how much money I have or would like to have, who's better looking than me, who's stronger than me, who's more respected than me. I'm thinking of, I need to rescue this girl.
Smart. Yeah. I know.
And I believe that's all the way that the Christian life, the life of faith, the kingdom life is supposed to be, is that instead of, it's not, hey, I'm the greatest, or hey, I'm the worst. It's more like, I'm not even thinking about me at all. I'm thinking about this objective that I need to accomplish,
Oh, definitely. definitely. The time that's happened to me was being in the woods by myself. And just enjoying the woods and getting deeper into the woods. And I had lost everybody. I didn't know where they were, and I was by myself. And my first thought was actually about them freaking out about me, and that I had to calm down because I did start to panic. Everything looked the same. No clue where to go. So actually, first thing I did, start praying. God, help me get back to everybody. But I remember thinking about my mom right away, too, that she must be scared crapless, that I am lost. I'm out, I'm out of the picture. I couldn't hear anybody, see anybody. I eventually made it back. But, that can be really scary, really scary.
Yeah, yeah. But that, minus the fear, that's the mindset that the Lord really wants you to have, and the mindset that will really make life effective is when you're just not thinking of yourself all that much. So I would say, beneath all these 7 deadly sins, we could look at the specific each one that, lust is, again, that sexual immorality that we American Christians tend to focus primarily on. We tend to think that's the worst. But greed is pretty bad,
Yes. Wrath is up there.
Yeah, and that's one thing that as I've gotten older, I was talking to this one guy, and, he used to be an old scrapper, and fight. And he was like, it's not as fun to fight anymore because the younger guys are now all faster than me, So, but I mean, you think, being Scottish, and I took martial arts laws, I used to think nothing about, hurting somebody. I mean, there's one move that we used to go through where you strike to the throat. That's a kill.
Yeah.
You are attempting to kill that person. And now I think about that and I don't want to do that.
No.
I mean, it would take a horrible situation to make me even consider doing that.
That's when somebody's threatening your family with something.
Yeah. And even then you wouldn't want to do that, So, we tend to look at the sexual immorality things here in America as being the top worst. But I'd say, wrath is up there. Paul says greed is idolatry. That when you're greedy, you're worshiping another god. Right. So all of these are pretty disgusting in their own right. All of these are based on focusing on yourself more than anyone else. And all of these will, as you've already pinpointed, do great damage to you and to the people around you.
Absolutely.
So that being the case, then, what should we do about it? Because, again, truth has an application. It's not like the Lord just wants us to know, hey, greed is bad, gluttony is bad, blah, 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 blah. It's that he is, through that, calling us to make some sort of change, to have some sort of response.
Stop watching the Kardashians. That's first.
That's an easy one for me. I'm done.
Okay.
And you'll be fine. Can scratch that one off the list.
Recognize what they are and learn what they are. And have them be a part of your life that you try to avoid. Use them as a tool to keep away from these items. Know when you think you're getting too greedy for certain objects, or if the wrath affects the way you drive and the way you look at people. You've got road rage every time you go somewhere because you don't like the way somebody else drives, or if you see something that you like and you want, but you can't afford it, but you go for it anyway under the pretense of both greed and envy, and you want that so badly that it'll affect your payment on a house, or it'll affect eating that week or something like that, and especially pride, definitely holding yourself above everybody else. That's not good. And use it just as lessons for yourself on how to improve your own life, for yourself and for the people around you. And hopefully that'll make people better.
Well, I think you're on to something there. And the word is motive. One thing that we really need to consider is what's your motive for doing what, it's just like, I've stopped posting stuff on Facebook, because I don't want to sit here and be A, bragging about my life, or B, attempting to brag about my life. In other words, if something really great is happening for me, like when my wife sent me to, and again, a lot of people wouldn't think this was great, but my wife for my birthday, got me that hawk experience where I got to go fly the hawk, and the hawk, sat on, I had the leather glove on, and the hawk sat on my hand. And, they took pictures of me with the hawk. I didn't post that on Facebook because I didn't want, not because it's not that posting that on Facebook would be wrong, but if you're trying to look how great I am, A, or B, look how terrible you are. Neither of those are good motivations. I think that's the motivation of 90% of what you find on Facebook and Twitter. And I've never messed with Snapchat or Instagram or any of those, but I'd imagine they're about the same. So that motive has to be considered, because if you look at the 7 deadly sins, I've not thought about them very much, but the interesting thing about them is a lot of them are motive based. Yeah. It's not that eating food is wrong. Right. It's that gluttony is wrong. So they highlighted the attitude more really than they highlighted the action. It's not that not working is wrong, because sometimes it's right to not work, like on the Sabbath. It's that
not doing
laziness, right? Is wrong. The unwillingness to work. So it is neat that they did highlight the attitude, or they highlighted the motivation here. So I think you're onto something when you say, number one, you got to consider what your motivation is for the things that you do. And it could be that even if you're doing a right thing, like, hey, here's a picture of a birthday party on Facebook, it's really a wrong thing because your motivations are bad.
You have to make sure that what you're doing is, like, I'll post things with my granddaughter, or I'll post things with me acting stupid. And the reason I do it is I tried to do it under entertainment. And there are times, I'll admit, I've put up stuff about me on the lake just because there's a lake out my back door. Right. When I first got here, I was like, oh, hey, splash, splash. And it's like, and you feel cheesy doing it sometimes, and then sometimes you think, what am I doing this for? Is it for the point of the fact that I have a lake, everybody can come over and hang out in it, or is it because I have a lake and you don't?
Right, exactly.
And you don't want to do it because I have a lake and you don't, because that just makes you into some kind of pariah pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And people call you names of specific body parts that don't smell good. And it's not nice.
Very few body parts smell good, in my opinion. There's a lot of body parts.
My pinky smells immaculate.
Yeah, usually that requires some sort of treatment, though. Some sort of soap or cologne or something to that effect. But no, you're right. It's again, like, one of the things that I just can't stand is that picture of the girl in the mirror, and she's holding her phone like this, the
duck face thing going on.
With the duck lips, and she's posing, and she's twisting her body to make it look as skinny as possible.
Right, 1 foot out.
It just, again, I can't judge another person's motives. Maybe she just, and I have seen some women that, hey, they just generally like their outfit and want people to see it, or women that have lost a lot of weight. And they just want to be like, hey, look at the weight that I lost. But if you're trying to rub it into somebody, if you're trying, to aggrandize yourself, those are bad motives, and they fall into that 7 deadly sins category. So motive certainly is another thing.
Yeah.
Result would be the second.
Definitely.
I think I've said this on the podcast before, but there are 3 things that make a sin, or 3 reasons that something could be sinful. Motive is one. The act itself is another. Because regardless of what your motive is, if you're
performing the sin,
kicking dogs is never right. Even if you had a good motive for it, even if it had a good result, maybe, which I can't imagine it would. But so it could. Some acts are just sinful in themselves, and there's no reason it could possibly be right. Some acts are fine, but the motive is wrong. And some acts are fine or would be fine, but the result is wrong. So again, when you're saying, I don't think it's wrong to have a beer with dinner every night, sure. But if the blood sugar has gotten bad and the weight has gotten bad, then maybe it does begin to enter into the territory of wrong. So you got to consider the result too. That's another thing with me and Facebook, is that I didn't want to think that there were people looking at my posts and being envious, being jealous, feeling less because I was getting to do something. So I was just like, you know what? I don't need to to put, we went to the football game, the arena football. Of course, nobody gets jealous about arena football but me. But, we went to the arena football game. I didn't put it on Facebook. We went to Kings Island. I didn't put it on Facebook because I don't want people being like, oh, yeah, I'm working and Doug's having fun. I think the result is bad.
And there's also the extremes of what you were saying, like one beer with dinner a night could be fine. 20 beers with dinner could definitely cause a problem. Same thing. And then posting to Facebook, day out in the lake with your family for the rest of your family to see how everybody's doing. Fine.
Right.
Posting a picture every 5 seconds because you think you're all that in a bag of chips and then a can of Doritos. There's something wrong with you.
I call them the glow gals. There's that commercial for Bacardi that used to run all the time about We Are the Night, and he's talking about these different characters. Yeah, and the one are the glow gals, and they're walking, looking at their phone. They're all dolled up, and they're looking at their phones, and they're all happy. Yeah, they're glowing. They're illuminated because they've got 1,000 likes. Oh, God. So the glow gals, yeah. But beyond that, though, then the question becomes, what are you going to do about it? Because ultimately, this is discipleship is what is God saying to you, and what are you going to do about it? Now, whether God compiled the list of 7 deadly sins or not, and we know that he didn't, there still is some God truth in there. It's still possible that God could communicate something to you through that list. I prefer the Proverbs list because I think some of the things that the Proverbists list as things God hates are interesting to consider. But nonetheless, if God is speaking to you through this list of 7 deadly sins, the next question is, what are you going to do about it? Because God does not talk unlike me, God does not talk just to talk, right? Unlike me, God does not talk just to hear his own voice. He talks
You're greedy for
the purpose of changing people. Yeah. So do you sense any change that needs to be made?
There's times when I do, especially I mentioned gluttony before. I mentioned again. For me, gluttony and wrath. I think when I drive, I got to settle down. I get really upset with a lot of people. Lust was an issue for a while until I got married. And thank God that I got married. That slowed me down. And also having a prefab family, as I call it, it was already preconceived, literally. I am so happy that I ended up with 2 girls because that changed me quite a bit. Because before getting married and the view of women, I never thought I'd get married. I thought I'd be spending the rest of my life single and dating until the end of time. I did not want to get married. And having 2 girls helped because it teaches you that women are not just pieces of produce. They are important people in your life and need to be treated better. So right now I think I'm following mostly, and sloth was a big one for me too growing up, by the way. And it's just the way that I look at them and how I realize that those things were bad and not to do that anymore because I'm different now. I treat myself better. I treat people better. And it's because I recognize these 7 things that teach me what not to do. Mm-hmm. And it's very important to realize them. That's the way I would apply it to myself there. It's just, learning about them, seeing if it's something that you do have a problem with, and make yourself a better person getting away from those items. And these can be connected, I'm pretty sure, with the 10 Commandments as well, wouldn't they?
Yeah, to a greater or lesser degree. I mean, again, all of them, you can find verses, if you want to take the Bible apart and proof text things, you could find verses condemning laziness, condemning wrath, condemning lust. It fairly easily. All those 3, I already have verses in my head. And we could go on. Let me push you a little bit further,
Please
though, because as I look in the Bible, I believe we see 2 great realities. The first is what I call covenant, which is our relationship with God. And we've probably done this on the podcast before. This is all I do because this is really all there is, in my opinion. There's covenant, relationship with God, and then there's kingdom, which is responsibility to God. The 2 go hand in hand. The one leads into the other, but they do need to be in that order. Covenant needs to precede kingdom. If you look in Genesis, when God begins interacting with people, he comes in, he makes a covenant first. He comes to Abraham, says, I'm going to make a covenant with you. You're going to be a great nation. many nations are going to come from you. All nations will be blessed through you, which is a reference to the Messiah. He makes that covenant with him in chapter 12. A little later, he comes back and says, okay, now you need to be circumcised. So first he established the relationship. It's always God establishing the relationship. It's not that we came looking for God. He came looking for us. He establishes the relationship with us. Then he says, okay, now that we're in this now that we're family, as in all families, there is some responsibility. My daughter, as she gets older, she's got some responsibilities around the house. Put the silverware away, clean your room, et cetera, et cetera. All family comes with responsibility. It's very natural. The problem with us is that we often look at kingdom first, and a lot of times don't even look at covenant at all. So 7 deadly sins, if you're looking at, what would you put that under, covenant or kingdom?
That would have to be, I hope it's not the wrong answer, but I would think that this is something to help you get into the kingdom, to pay attention to these.
Yeah, well, it's a kingdom duty, isn't it? To avoid sin, to obey, to be righteous, et cetera, is a kingdom responsibility. You're correct. You will never be able to fulfill that kingdom responsibility merely by looking at it as a kingdom responsibility. Okay, you'll never be able to keep the speed. I mean, let me just use an inane analogy. You'll never be able to keep the speed limit just because you see signs saying speed limit 65 miles an hour and you're afraid of getting a ticket, right? We just know that kind of motivation doesn't work. You become far more motivated when there is a relationship involved. So what I always do, we could say, hey, what's the moral of the show?
Cruise control.
Don't commit cruise control.
Sorry, go ahead.
Don't commit the 7 deadly sins, right? There's the moral of the show.
Right.
True enough, maybe you're not going to be able to do it. You can't do it that way. It's far better to go back to covenant and say, what's a covenant truth that God is expressing here that leads into the kingdom truth? So can you think, if you push back that way, because I know you're saying, man, 7 deadly sins, I'm worried about some of the ramifications. I need to change my lifestyle a little bit. And I'm telling you, that won't work. Won't work doing it that way. Even being afraid of the ramifications. Very few people does that change their lives for good.
And I'm hoping this is what you're talking about, is the fact that you have to believe in something to want to do this anyway. So it would matter that you're doing this not only for yourself, but for the fact that you want to be in God's kingdom. So the first original connection.
Yeah, there you're getting closer. Do you, or even better would be, do you want to be in God's family? Because family precedes kingdom. Covenant precedes kingdom. So
well, see, this is why you're the pastor and the pappy, because I see them as the same thing, where God's family and kingdom are all just one big, beautiful, beautiful place.
Eventually, covenant and kingdom, again, like the spectrum, the line between them eventually begins to blur. Right. But there are some truths that clearly fit in the covenant category, such as, I love you, you're my son, I'm your father. And some truths that fit into the kingdom category, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations, clearly a kingdom command. God loves us, clearly a covenant truth. So what I'm saying is the covenant informs and inspires and motivates the kingdom. They are eventually, and family is one word, because families in biblical times did work together.
Yeah.
So family does begin to blur that line between love and responsibility, relationship and responsibility. But for our purposes here, let's just take that as a covenant word. Family. So what would the covenant truth of family in regard to the 7 deadly sins be?
Okay, I'm waiting for your answer on that one.
Okay. Well, and again, this is just what I take people through, how I help people hear from God and find out how to change their lives for God. I mean, one guess that I have, and I don't know what's going on in your head, so I don't really know.
I'll tell you.
Okay, go for it.
I'll tell you really quick before you guess, tell me the guess. What's going through my head is thinking that if you didn't have any belief system at all, these words here would just be words. They wouldn't have any connection to anything, because what would it matter? And to me, the value of Jesus in my life, the value of God in my life, is so important that these words, these 7 deadly sins, are so important to pay attention to, because to me, if I delve into these words these words or these actions too strongly, I'll never be able to be one with God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit in any sense or fashion, because these things will take me as far away from them as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're close. I think maybe one way I would state that same idea is that this isn't the way of our family. Might be a covenant way to put this.
That's what I said.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing you said, just fewer words. I say, Aubrey sees people doing stuff. Hey, there are people just snuck into the pool, Dad. Why don't we sneak into the pool? We can sneak in the pool. We don't have to pay. We get to swim. And that's not the way of our family. Our family doesn't do sneaky things. Right. Or, somebody tells, there's a kid at school wanted Aubrey to keep a secret. And I said, our family doesn't keep secrets. That's just not the way of our family. You're still have that kingdom element there, but you're getting more towards covenant, where you're talking about identity, who we are, right, prior to what we do, that we just aren't a people that does shady things like that. And so maybe one good covenant word, as we bring this, discussion of the 7 deadly sins down to a close, is that this just isn't the way of our family. Our family is not a family of wrath, sloth, avarice, envy. I can't name them all.
Less gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath,
gluttony. Our family just isn't that. That's just not who we are. That's just not our family. And I think when you see it that way, when you see our Father as the beautiful head of the family, who has said, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's what's right, what's good, what's beneficial, what's wise, what's productive for us. You look at our God saying to us, this is not the way of our family. Then it becomes a whole lot easier to say, yeah, I'm not that much interested in lust anymore. I'm not that much interested in greed or envy or wrath anymore.
Right. And now the moral of the show.
Which leads us to
the moral of the show.
Exactly.
The moral of the show is the bottom line. And the bottom line is definitely, I think the bottom line for this one is too, not just realize these items, like I've said, take a look at them and see if they apply to you, but take a look and see how they apply around the entire planet, and see if there's a way that you can help others change. Don't prejudge them right away, but, help a person out if they're like, God, I need to diet so badly, but I just don't know how, and this 310 pounds is killing me. Help them out, definitely. If someone's saying, I've been looking at this girl for so long and she's just not interested in me, but I'm also looking at that one, help them out finding somebody that's right for them, and not just somebody because they got, I don't want to say great ass, not just because they look extremely hot and that's the only reason that he wants it. Help that person find somebody because the match is there and the feelings are there. Teach them a little bit about love instead of lust, and try to help people out in that. That would be my moral for this list. Help people realize that they don't need to fall under these categories, and also help yourself not fall under these categories as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, the way I'd put it is these sins are deadly.
Definitely.
As is all sin. And these sins are not us. No sin is us. This is not what we are. This is what we are not. If you understand it that way, I think it becomes a little easier to say, yep, just not enter. It's the same thing as when I say nobody's tempted to drink bleach. You see this for what it is. You see you for who you are in God. Yeah. The temptation kind of goes away.
And if you guys get a chance, see the movie 7. That is a great movie with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. I
was a little disappointed in the ending, though.
I don't say anything else for those.
I'm not going to spoil the ending, but to me, the pattern didn't get fulfilled. I know the pattern did get fulfilled technically, but it didn't get fulfilled the way I thought it should have. So
it depends on who made the film. If Disney made it, or if Clive Barker made it, and then I guess it's up to that.
I feel like they broke the pattern to some degree, even though it could be argued that they didn't. To me, it felt like they did.
They kind of had they should have had an alternate ending too. To fulfill that. But I'll tell you what, the best version of Aaron G in that movie is in that film. Does that make sense?
The best version of what?
Aaron G.
What's that? Is that a song?
That's Beethoven's. Or is it Bach? Aaron G, the famous one.
You could say either, and I'd believe you because I have no clue.
Oh, it's a beautiful piece of music.
You could say Mozart. You could say
it's Handel's. Mozart's Cavalieri. I don't know what I'm saying. Oh man! So closing hymn. Tonight's closing hymn.
Your pick.
I am picking tonight's closing hymn is going to be something off of an album I did about 7 Deadly Sins, and I will pick one. Most likely, it'll be an instrumental, and you'll hear it. But another thing I want to tell you is Joe Jackson. You know who Joe Jackson is? Stepping Out.
Stepping Out Tonight, yeah.
He did an album about the 7 Deadly Sins as well.
Really?
Really, really well done. Yeah, Gluttony is super fast, and there's a whole bunch of instruments coming at you. He did a song about sloth, sung by the lead singer of Crash Test Dummies. And it's a great... yeah. And he's like, give me a bud and a slice. Talking about pizza.
Yeah, that the whole voice just sounds slothful, doesn't it?
And leave me alone. And it's so cool because the tempo is dragging. You know how it's supposed to be ding, 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 ding. And then the other one will be very late, and it feels late, and it feels like it's slow, and he says, how do I feel? I don't know. Don't ask me. Those are the lyrics. And he's just sitting there. He doesn't care about anything. And it's a really good album about all that. Wrath is the song with 2 drummers on each side of your ears just blaring away. And he's saying every curse word you can imagine and screaming at the top of his lungs.
Joe Jackson is?
Yeah.
Mr. Stepping Out Tonight is laying down the 4 letters, huh?
It's a great album, though. It is.
Wow.
It's a musical genius anyway. He really has done some really good music. But so something to check out.
Okay.
So join us next time when Doug says...
Tell me what you need and I'll take heed and lead you in the right direction for affection. See what I'm saying? I ain't playing. Stop delaying, girl, and make me your natural selection.
When I listen to you rap, you give me an infection. But I listen to it for my own protection. Everybody have a beautiful conception of the July. I don't know. Have a good night.
There you go. All right.
of Zerbinator's music and podcasts are under the Creative Commons license, which allows retelling and rebroadcasting as long as the author is notified and credited. For more great escape pods, please visit www.zerbinator.wordpress.com. If you would like to contact Zerbinatorland, you can send an email to instrumentally@gmail.com or give us a call at 571-408-ZERB or 9372.